Get ready for a topic we haven't talked a lot about: dating, repeating patterns, picking the wrong guy again. I'm sure they're on your mind, especially if you are in those newer phases where you're wondering, when can I get back out there? Or maybe you did try to tiptoe back out there and ran back home real fast. We're going to talk through dating on today's episode. Let's get started. Welcome to the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast dedicated to helping women navigate the emotional journey that is divorce. I'm your host, Erica, and if you're trying to figure out life after the big D, welcome to the club. Whether you're contemplating divorce or dealing with the aftermath or any of the many phases in between, the club has got you covered. Each week, you'll hear stories from women who have been in your shoes. This isn't about spilling tea on divorce details. This is about giving you the tools to take control of your own healing journey. Listen in weekly for advice, tips, and tools to help you move through each stage of the process. Welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club. I'm your host, Erica, and today I have Christina King with me. Now, Christina is a relationship and dating coach based out of New York City. So welcome, Christina. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited for this conversation.
My gosh, I have been looking forward to this conversation because I rarely talk about dating. We kind of tiptoed into it a little bit in season 3, and here we are in season 9, right? That we haven't talked a lot about it, but it's such an important topic because I kind of see the same repeating patterns come up with everybody. And I'm just overall excited because for you guys, listeners on the other end, you hear me talk a lot about my divorce, about my separation, about my co-parenting. But I really have not spilled too many beans on what it was like to finally date and move forward. And the big part of finding somebody who you really are committing to and watching all those fears pop back up. So it should be a fun conversation. So, Christina, in your world, when you're helping women, are you helping primarily divorced women or kind of anybody figure out the dating world?
Yeah, primarily divorced women, but I help anybody who's had a toxic relationship or just a bad breakup. So it's not just limited to people who've gone through a divorce.
Yeah. And you yourself are divorced, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your divorce story and how it brought you here, because I see a lot of pivots that people go through after divorce.
Yeah. So my divorce, even though it was a really hard thing to go through, as it is for many of us, it was the best thing I ever did. I met my ex-husband when I was 22 and we split up when I was 31. So we've been separated and divorced now for 2 years. It was a not so happy marriage filled with lots of ups and downs, and it was definitely toxic and filled with lots of gaslighting and just constant stress. And yeah, I didn't feel good about myself during it. And the people in my life just noticed how unhappy I was and how depressed I was. And if you know me in real life, I'm a very happy, optimistic person.
Yeah.
And that part of me went away. So I had known for a while after we got married in 2020 during COVID, which is a crazy time. And I kind of knew not long after we were married that it probably wasn't going to work out, but it took me a while to leave, as I'm sure a lot of the people you've encountered also have that same pattern of doing, like having issues leaving the relationship. So it took me a couple years to leave, and I finally did, and I felt so liberated. Now I live in my own apartment for the first time ever, and I have great friends. I have a great relationships with my family. But in the midst of all that, I actually started my coaching business while I was married, which is very interesting. So I've been in the coaching space for about 5 years. And I have been always wanting to help people. It took me a while to get to relationship and dating coaching. I really didn't start that until a couple years ago. But I always knew I wanted to help people, and that was a part of me that I was wanting to fill my cup in that way, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So going through my divorce was super empowering for me. And the process was pretty easy. We didn't have any kids, we didn't have any property. So it was just an easy split. Unfortunately, it was not sunshine and rainbows like I wanted it to be. I did want to be friends with my ex. I know that's something you talked about on the episode you just did with Victoria McCooey
Yeah.
about how to let go of the dream of being best friends with your ex-husband. So unfortunately, we don't talk anymore, but I wish him well. And that's that. And I've moved on with my life, and I'll get into that a little later with the
Yeah.
dating stuff. But yeah, so my divorce, as soon as like he left, of course there was sadness, of course there was, hard moments, but I mostly felt really good. I was in a good space. And I think the reason why that was is I did the work before leaving the marriage. I very much invest in myself. So with coaching, therapy, my spirituality is very important to me. So I think if I didn't do that work beforehand, then I doubt I'd be in this great place.
Yeah, I definitely mirror that sentiment. We were separated for 2 years, which is really long. Really, really long, but in that space, I figured out who I was. I figured out what I wanted. That first year was really rocky. And thank goodness I had some consistency. The job stayed the same, the house stayed the same. He moved out, but I knew what the mortgage was that I had to pay. I knew what the cleaning and the upkeep was, right? We had our same systems. And so it gave me the space to invest in figuring out who I was. And now I'll say, I still tripped like so hard when I finally filed for divorce and decided to turn on that first dating app and thought, really thought I had done all this work, tick it off the list. I have graduated. I am self aware. I am ready. And that was really not the case. It was a new chapter of learning, not not so much this time of who I was necessarily, but what I wanted to stand up for. What did I want to protect? All of the things that I had fought so hard to win back and pick up the pieces of who I was, the things that I found that I loved about myself. I didn't want to repeat those same patterns of pushing them aside for my own little unhealed codependent issues that were going to show up when I moved back into dating. So, what do you see are some of the biggest challenges women after divorce face when they start dating again?
I see a lot of issues with not being able to trust themselves.
Oh, huge. I did not trust
Mhm.
myself because yeah, okay. You can tell you guys, I'm like, oh, so many ways to go with this. One of the themes I see is that the first person you find after your divorce, most people fall head over heels in love with. Head over heels. I
Guilty.
was so guilty over here. And in that, when it started to not progress the way I wanted it to, I really started to wobble around whether or not I could trust myself. Did I make the wrong choice? Am I acting out of fear? Am I playing too small? What do I need to do? So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I'm finding a lot of women, especially if they've been in a toxic relationship, maybe there was gaslighting or there's overlooking some red flags. The ability to trust yourself is kind of not there. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but I'm seeing that a lot of women are doubting their intuition, especially with posts I see online. Some women will post, "Oh, this guy has a wife, but he wants to date me. Is that okay?" Just giving an example, not saying that happens. But like things like that where maybe it's so obvious to certain people, but they're kind of questioning it because they never knew that they could. That's another thing. Like we don't know that we can trust ourselves, and I think that's such an important superpower in dating is cultivating intuition and developing that and going with what your gut really wants.
Yeah. It makes sense, you guys. Trusting yourself. When you get to the place of moving through a divorce or having gone through a divorce, you start to look back at all of the places where maybe you didn't trust yourself, where you self abandoned, where you didn't listen to what your gut was actually telling you because you were trying to make it work, because there were kids in the middle, because even if it's not working, what you know is safer than the unknown. And so then when we make that leap forward, one of the first things we all have to do is reestablish trusting ourselves. When we see those yellow or red flags, will we leave?
Mm,
Will we make that call or will we continue to push it aside and make excuses? So, if you are struggling with trusting yourself, you guys get in the club, get in that membership because you need somebody who's been there before too. You need somebody to check those like thoughts against that isn't your best friend who just wants you to move on or isn't a family member who wants you back with the ex. Rebuilding trust with yourself is one of the biggest first steps.
absolutely. And I'm also seeing a lot of like low confidence too. And that really makes me sad because there are so many wonderful women who would be such a great partner to somebody. I'm not saying like everybody needs to be in a relationship, but there are so many great qualities to women who have gone through divorce or a breakup. You're more than just your relationship and your love story. That's what I'm saying. And if we can look at ourselves as a whole person, like, oh, I have this going on. Like for me, I have my business, I have my writing, I have my friends. There's more to you than just love and romance. And I think if people zeroed in on the qualities that make them like a good friend or a good daughter, wife, or whatever, then I think the confidence would just increase a little bit. But I do find that a lot of women, because they've been so badly burned, that the confidence is just, it needs to be built up again, and that's what I do with my clients. And it's hard, but it can be
Yeah.
done. It can be worked on.
It totally makes sense because again, you leave the divorce. I know for me, I left the divorce even though I was now in like the best shape of my life because I had tons of free time. I was in the gym for 5 days a week. It was my happy place. I was like fit. I was feeling fantastic, right? I loved the clothes I was wearing. I loved being in my body. I was so proud of the work I had done. Like I had really finally felt I had arrived. Here I am, 35. It was 37 by the time it was final. Like, hell yes, I am ready for these next phases. And then you get to the dating world and you get to the apps, right? And you get to all the things that are, we'll talk about apps here in a second, but they're so based on somebody else's judgment. And partnered with that, I had a very solid belief that everybody else must be partnered up and happy. How come nobody's picking me? How come I wasn't good enough to fight for? How come I can't find somebody who wants the same things as I do? And all those start to hit that confidence. Maybe I'll never find somebody. I found myself doing a lot of swiping and well, I didn't do a lot of swiping. I'll tell you how I swiped in a second. But when I would match with somebody, instead of the question being, is this person the right fit to rise and meet me and who I want to continue to evolve into? I was asking myself, can I find myself happy amidst the conditions that they have in their life? So I was literally trying to fit myself back into their world. And the reality was is at that point I was happy I could fit myself into a lot of places. And it missed that critical question of, yeah, I can be happy in their world, but can they be the partner that I need and that I want and that I deserve? And so there was a big confidence gap. It has nothing to do with what you look like, and it has everything to do with that internal work. So super important to work through that as well.
Absolutely. I think we are so used to fitting in other people's worlds, we forget how to make our own worlds and how can we
Yeah.
fit into it ourselves. So that's a very
Yeah.
good point you bring up.
And I really see that people do, there's like two groups of people, the people that are like, okay, yes, I want to get married again, or I want to just be in relationship again. And then some people are like, hell no, F that, never again. Right.
Mm.
And there is space for both. Here's what I'd say if you're sitting in that space. If you're sitting in either of those spaces, we got to get to the why. Okay. You're sitting in a space where you're like, hell no, been there, done that, never doing that again. My question would be, are you saying no because you don't want to risk your heart getting hurt again? You don't want to risk the pain? Or are you really just in love with your life exactly as it is and you feel complete? And then on the other side, the people who are like, yes, I definitely want another relationship. Again, why? Is it that you tie some sort of confidence, value, worthiness to having somebody who picks you? Or are you choosing a relationship because you do truly want to co create? Because, spoiler alert, good Lord, relationships are a lot of work. And I was one that was gung ho. Like I knew I always wanted to be in relationship. I always wanted to be married. After my divorce, I was like, yes, I want to be in partnership. I want to be married again. That's evolved because it's not about the legal paperwork, it's about the commitment. But now being in a relationship at 3.5 years of being in a true co creating relationship, it's balance, it's work, it's how am I not losing myself for the relationship? How are we communicating and working together? So there are some things that are a lot easier to just stay single. It's pros and cons, but getting to the root of why. Are you running or are you choosing to build something very consciously around what you need in this next chapter?
Yeah, that's a very honest outlook on why people choose to be in relationships, or are they really asking themselves that too?
Yeah. I fully confess I had kind of sort of zero idea what it meant to be married or even in relationship. Before I got married, I didn't have a single relationship that I stayed in longer than 3 months. Mainly
Mm,
because it so quickly I was like, "Yep, nope, not for me." And once it became a not for me, moving on, right? And so then when I did find one that I was like, no, this is the one that I want. This is the one I want to build with. I didn't know how to have the conversations. I didn't know how to move through conflict. So a lot of that, the unhealed part, the anxious attachment for me, the avoidant attachment from him, the codependency from both of us, the working through all those things, it was a lot. And we obviously did not get through all of it
mhm.
without creating a lot of hurt on both sides. And so learning those lessons and then consciously choosing through the next wave, it's hard. It's hard. Is it worth it? Absolutely. But it's not a Disney movie.
And you lose yourself, and it's how do you keep coming home to yourself? That's really the key.
That's the key because the thing is, again, you guys, it's not like, okay, I healed my codependency, degree on the wall, check mark, it's done. It is a constant, how am I protecting the things that I need to be my best self? How am I prioritizing myself? Like I'm in the middle of this 6 month, I'm doing a 6 month to add some new modalities into my coaching world. And part of it is there's a Kundalini aspect. If you guys are familiar with Kundalini, there's the yoga practice, but there's also just Kundalini energy moving through the body, your true self, your inner being. And part of that is a commitment of, these 40-day runs of the same series of, breath work, chanting, yoga, movement. If you miss a day, you got to start over. Now, we're in the middle of a big launch. Work is very busy. We just finished a huge fundraiser. I'm exhausted. I don't really want to get up and go do this thing. But the commitment to not lose myself, the commitment to say, this is important to me. What can come off my plate or what can I get help with so that I can still do this? And that is definitely not something that I would have done pre-divorce. I would have prioritized all the other things that have to get done, and the things that are nice for me, right, are optional. And that's what creates that codependency. We're so reliant on making sure we keep the other person and keep them happy. And how can I make sure that they still want me? A safety and
Mhm.
worthiness issue that we don't prioritize the things we need to be our best self. And then it's a self fulfilling prophecy where the relationship deteriorates because you lose you, they fell in love with you, not the shadow of who's there now.
Yeah, I think, going through something like a divorce, it's made us more, I don't know if being mindful is the right word, but it's helped us become more conscious of how we fill up our cup and how we take care of ourselves and who can we delegate tasks to. That's a very good thing.
Right? And again, work in progress. I didn't ask nicely this week. I kind of barked some orders. And then I came back after and, was like, yeah, okay, I'm a little stressed, right? But again, that's co creating in partnership. You're never going to be perfect. They're never going to be perfect. How do you handle conflict? How do you repair? But let's talk about the apps because I think that dating has changed so very much. Even in the years since I've been out there dating, it's changed so much. And that was a really big struggle for me because when I got divorced, the majority of our friends were through him, through his work or through friends, because again, guys are a little bit more social. And so you just kind of picked up the wives that came along with it, or you had play date friends from school, or you had sports friends. And so when we got divorced, I really didn't have very many friends. And everybody's, we'll just go meet some people. We'll just go find some single people, right? And I'm like, well, who? And I moved at the same time. So I was in a brand new neighborhood. So married people weren't really available to go out. I don't do co ed sports. No, I will go to the gym. I will lift weights. You can get me to play a little bit of tennis, but no, I am not like joining sand volleyball and I'm not joining what else is it? It's sand volleyball, it's softball, it's all the summer co-ed sports that they try and recruit you to. And so it was really hard. And then they'd be like, well, just go out to the restaurant on your own. And I was like, okay, for sure.
These are
And I
seven.
did those assignments. I took myself to a movie solo. I took myself out to dinner solo. I took myself out for cocktails solo. But the apps like avoided it. But then I did it very specifically. So Tell us a little bit first about your best practices around the apps or your humor around it. And then I'll share a little bit about how I consciously choose to co create with apps.
Yeah, I like the way you worded that. I personally was on them very briefly. I don't love them for myself, but if my clients want to use them, I
Yeah.
support them in that journey. I do think if used in the right way, you can make some good connections. And again, like going out on dates is experience. Maybe you won't meet the love of your life on there, but it's good to get out of your comfort zone and try it. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. Or maybe it is. It depends on the person. I usually like to encourage people to get out in person a little bit. And it could be doing some of those activities you just said were like not for you. But
Christina, I would tell you no. I'd be like, that's hilarious. No, come up with a new idea.
you know, but where I live, they're trying to do singles events now. I think there
Yep.
is like a push to be more in real life.
Good.
And yeah, I think just using them in a way that feels good to you. Personally, I was staying up till 1 a.m. swiping on hot men, and I shouldn't have been doing that, but that's the
Yeah.
kind of world we live in. Everything's on demand now. So yeah, I usually just say like to my clients, set boundaries around it. Only spend a couple of minutes a day. I help them with their profile and wording things a certain way, uploading certain pictures,
Yep.
making sure like you attract the right kind of person. Now that's not always the case. You always sometimes get like creepy weirdos. But I think the point is to not get sucked into it and to know that what I really also encourage is mindset work, as that is not the only way to meet somebody. You can
Mhm.
obviously find people in real life. Obviously, we're not going up to people in bars anymore. Sometimes you are. But I think, it is different, but there are different ways of meeting people. And the more I try to get my clients to open up their mind and think more abundantly in that way, then that is really where I find my success and my clients' success is okay, how can I look at this differently? Instead of saying there's no good guys on these apps, okay, how about joining a book club? Or how
Yep.
about asking a friend to set you up or a family member? Fun fact, I've never dated anybody I met on a dating app.
I love that.
Always through in-person connections. It was a high school friend or summer camp friend or mutual setup. Yeah, I'm gonna keep believing that until I find my person. But never say never to going back on the apps.
I love it. And I love what you said about if you're specific about how you want to use the tool, it's a tool, you guys. It is a choice on how you want to bring it to life. So mine was I set limits. Well, first of all, you got to get over the uncomfortableness of writing your own profile. That part sucks. I guess now you have Chat GPT. Chat could write it. There was so much, again, speaking of what we first talked about, trusting yourself in low confidence, being able to write a bio about yourself, like what you love, what you want in somebody is a huge practice in trusting yourself and in your confidence. And I remember, writing it and kind of getting, I'd write it and then eventually people would find out I have a kid and then they'd ghost me. And so then I used all that little fire, right? And it was like one dog, one kid, one 250-pound back squat, and then one peach emoji to back it up, right? Because I was done. I was done with like, I tried to make it sound right and I tried to do the thing. And then I was like, screw it. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. Now, partnered with that, I set limits because to your point, you get sucked in. You're hearing it all over right now, anyways. When you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling on any of the social platforms, it does affect mental health. You create this thing that everybody else is so happy. And why am I not happy? Builds a little anxiety, creates a little scarcity mindset. There's nothing left out there for me. And so I set limits. I was allowed 5 swipes a day, 5. And then I put it down and I walked away. And if nothing matched out of those 5, and I also set limits on how many like open conversations I would have at a time. It didn't work for me to date openly. Like that's not my thing. Like, hey, if I connected with you, let's see where the conversation goes. I don't need to be balancing 5 different dudes and 5 different conversations. I don't got time for that. I'm a single working mom. If you can't even be present in a conversation to like chat with me until we see where this is going, we're probably not the right fit because I'm not in the world to compete with 5 other women that you're dating. So before you turn on the app, set your limits, set your boundaries. How much time a day or how many swipes do you get? Do you want to just date one at a time? Do you want to try and date multiple? You have to set your boundaries so that you're choosing how to use the tool. So the tool's not owning you. You're choosing how to use the tool. If you're feeling overwhelmed, exhausted from overthinking, and stuck in uncertainty, this message is for you. You don't have to keep feeling that way. Inside the club, you'll find a safe space to rediscover who you are, clarify what you want, and determine how you want to move forward. Surrounded by women who truly understand and guided by expert support, you are not alone on this journey. Join us at thecrazyexwivesclub.com/the club. It's time to reclaim your life. And then the other thing with that, to your mindset point, is you have some work to do before you turn on an app to get really clear on why you're turning it on. What are you trying to call in? For me, every time I turned it on, I had set an intention before I turned it on. And unbeknownst to me, that's 100% exactly what I manifested and called in. And most times to frustration because I wanted it to evolve somewhere else. Before I turned it on the first time, I was like, I love my life. I'm so proud of myself, but I've never really explored the city I've lived in for the last 10 years. I want to partner with somebody I want to have fun. I want to laugh. I want to explore new things and I want to continue to figure out who I am. That is 100% exactly who I found. I went camping. I went to a gun range. I started snowboarding. I went to all these breweries. I found all these things that I love. And when it didn't evolve into a long-term relationship, I got really frustrated, but I kept sticking it out and I kept trying to make it work, right? And then, again, head over heels in love, so that took a while to get over that one. Second time I turned it on, I was like, my heart's not ready, but shit, it'd be fun to like mess around with somebody and have somebody to go out with. And that's what I got. So when there was no emotional connection, I was like, did it again. So there is a thing to your mindset and what you bring in. If you believe there's no good guys out there, if you believe this is never going to happen, that's exactly what you're going to get. And if you're not clear on what you want, you'll be at risk to sacrificing what you need for your best self. You'll be at risk to settle because of the low confidence, because you don't trust yourself. And so I also made the mistake of every date looking at, is this the one? Because my intention was to find a relationship. And so if every single time it was, is this the one? That is a lot of intensity. And I didn't sit down and grill you and be like, how many kids do you want to have? And do you want to be married? That's not what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But I'm saying in every conversation, I was looking for it to be, could this continue, instead of, do I want to continue to talk to this person tomorrow? Is this something like that I still want to do tomorrow? Not forever, just tomorrow. And when I made those shifts, then I was able to finally partner up with somebody who also did want a relationship, did want to be in commitment and knew what that meant, but also still maintain their independence. So just depends on, set your intentions, you guys, and then use the tool to your benefit. Don't let it mess with your mind. There are tons of single people out there.
Yes. Very true. Very well said. Mindset's everything. Yeah, I think the other part of it is too, and that's also what I teach in my work, is being clear on what you want. And this is where I'm manifesting. I believe in it. I totally believe in it. Yes, it may take a few tries, as you just said, to get there and to figure out what it is you want. It might take some bad frogs, if you will, but you'll get there.
You will. And like one of the things I wish I had done, I wish I had written down all my crazy divorce stories. I always told my friends, like we'd go to hang out and they'd be like, oh my God, what story do you have for us now? Just some weird, weird shit out there. But we enjoyed it in the moment. My recommendation for you is get a journal. I do a couple things. One, sit down, get in a happy space, do something that makes you happy, whether that's working out, going for a walk, talking to a friend, whatever it is, get lined up. And then turn your attention and say, okay, what do I really want in a partner? And start to write out, how does it feel? Not he's 6'2" and he has dark hair and that's not what I'm talking about, because those are conditions nobody can control. But he's a good listener and he's supportive and he can handle my emotions when I am acting a little crazy, because that's what we do, right? Who do you want this person to be? And then as you're dating, try and, zoom out to see what clarity is it offering you. Every single person I dated still helped me get clear on what I really wanted. And that was so important. But in the moment, I didn't see that. In the moment, I was upset this wasn't the one. In the moment, I was upset that I had to start over again. Oh my God, I have to again start over telling you about my dog and my kid and my favorite color and like what I like to eat. And that was really soul crushing some days to be like, I have to do this again. Why can't one just stay? But when you look at each one of, oh, this one taught me I wanted this, and this one taught me this is a non negotiable, and this one taught me this, right? It's bringing you that clarity so that you know what you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. Walking away from each partner, maybe it's just one date with one person, walking away with a lesson that will help you grow and then evolve into who you want to be.
Yeah. And you get a little tough skin because I was always like, oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. What the hell? Like, I still have to work on that. Sometimes I'm still a little too nice. I should have blocked some dude today who was leaving all sorts of not nice comments.
Oh, no.
I should have, and I did, and then I didn't, and then I did, and then, that then the people he was commenting on took over and they're like, "Yeah, you're crazy. You're dumb." Right?
Karma.
But, like, sometimes we just need to draw the line. Stop sacrificing yourself because you're afraid you're gonna offend or hurt somebody. If
Yeah.
you are truly doing it from a place of, "This is not in either of our best interest," and they get upset by that, that's their problem. You're not being cruel. Don't be cruel. Don't be mean. Don't get catty. That's a personal problem for you. That is you not being okay and lined up to your own love and your own connection. But if you're just like, "Hey, this is not the right fit," you're gonna hurt some people. It's gonna happen.
I actually just got out of my first long-term relationship post-divorce. We were together for 9 months. He wasn't the first guy I dated, but I experienced a lot of what you were just talking about, a lot of those feelings, like we weren't aligned for the future, we weren't on the same page for long-term goals, but he was actually a very nice guy, and he treated me very well. He's very respectful, and he was what I was looking for in a partner, just not for the long haul, but I was afraid of hurting his feelings, and I consider it to be a successful relationship. I don't think of it as a failed relationship, but I was really afraid in the moment of how he was going to react and things like that because we were friends before. But no, things are fine. We broke up a couple months ago and I'm good, but it's just looking at it from a mature perspective, I think, is what we're trying to say here. And looking at it like, okay, this person wasn't right for me. Maybe they were for now, but now that I look back, they taught me something. And it's okay to want more. And that's what I learned from this relationship.
Yeah, there were some comments some people had made online about, like, how we need to pick better.
Yeah.
It was a dude commenting on something, right? Women need to learn to pick better, and I'm not offended by that comment. I agree with it. I didn't know what it meant to be in a relationship, so I led by, I really like this person and I have all these butterflies and I have so much fun when I'm with him. And we haven't really learned, we haven't been taught. How do you pick somebody? Do you align on core values? Do you align on your vision and goal for the future? Yes. Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to have kids? Yes. But when we have kids, what do you see our family running like? Do you see me still at work? Do you see me staying home with the kids? What kind of a home life do you have? Do you foresee us still going out to restaurants and bars and the babysitters at home? What do you see? Because I think, moving forward then into where it's at now, you've mentioned red flags a little bit, and I kind of talk about like yellow flags too. So when we start to get choosy on what we're picking, like, for example, current partner and I, um, the process was learning that there are things that I knew we were not aligned on, and I had to make a choice on whether or not that was a deal breaker for me. They're not red flags, like it's not abuse, it's not anything like that. Like, we have very different work ethics. Now, I will tell you that is not a simple choice to make, right?
Mm.
Because someone who's a workaholic who finds their purpose in their job, and so I tend to work a lot and a lot and a lot. And on the other side, he who is very social and finds the fun in life. Now, I needed that. I need that balance. But when both of us are not balanced, those two things clash badly, right? Because when he's out of balance, he needs more social time and more rest. And when I'm out of balance, I need to get more stuff done. And so that's what I call a yellow flag. His organization and my organization, very different. Some days I still look at the piles and I'm like, "Good Lord, somebody help me because I'm going to scream." But these were conscious choices I made knowing that they are going to be points of conflict. But are we aligned on how we treat people? Are we aligned on how we want to parent and raise our kids? Are we aligned on those big things? Because the rest of it, you can choose to stick with it or not. Some people would probably have seen, like when I first saw his garage, I almost was like, we should probably break up. This garage is so messy. We should probably be done. But I didn't. And now we're learning how to navigate that new phase. But it is about what works for you, and don't sacrifice something that you're like, well, I can make this work, right? I can make his messy garage work. I will tell you, a couple years ago, I probably was like, do you really want to make it work? Because it'd be fine if you didn't. It'd be fine if something didn't last. And to your point of, hey, he was a really great guy. He had some of the pieces, but not all the pieces. And so we find that some of the pieces, and that's probably who we married in the first round
Yeah.
without knowing how to ask the deep questions about the other pieces. And that's what kind of got us into trouble.
Yeah, it's always like, how can we make it work? How can we fit into their world? But if it's not it, it's not it.
And that doesn't mean that they're a bad person.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't. It just means it wasn't the right fit for you. And you're not going to be the same person all the time. You're going to continue to evolve and to grow. And that was a big part too. Like my ex really felt that my like woo side was pretty dumb. And
Same.
and that's fine, right? And my current partner, does he think it's dumb? Probably, but he doesn't judge me for it. He's like, you want to do it? Go ahead. Am I going to go like the current one, moon water? I do love to put out water in a full moon and set some intentions in it and then drink it the next day. And you can read the science on it. There is some science behind it. Now, is he ever going to make a moon water jar? No. Does he kind of like laugh when I bring it in the house? Yes. But it's who I am. And so there is a piece too where he's just, that's who she is and she's doing her thing. And I love that she's doing her thing. And so finding that person that isn't going to judge the other pieces is so crucial.
Someone who believes in your weirdness, they're your person.
Yes, he loves my weirdness, much to his detriment, probably. I was like, you don't even know how crazy I am. I go, why do you think this is the Crazy Ex Wives Club? Because this is about owning your feelings. And when you really own your feelings and you really get into the good, juicy parts of the feelings, the love, the ecstasy, the abundance, like there's no limit on that. So he's been warned. My hope for you is that you guys also get to live this much love and abundance, that the universe is always surprising and delighting you. There's rough patches, but when we trust in a greater power and we do our best to navigate it, really amazing things show up. So if you're doubting your dating world, just trust either you're still collecting clarity or maybe he's not ready, but you guys are on your path to where you're supposed to be. So before we sign off, though, Christina, you have a freebie for the listeners to help them get clear, correct?
Yes. So I have my perfect partner playbook. It is a 3-part guide that will help you manifest the partner that you're looking for. There's literally a section that says manifest your partner, the deal breakers, and then there's the must haves. There's like a giant, like, blank page for you to just jot it out, word vomit.
Yep.
And then there's a section for you to write down your long-term or short-term dating goals. And it could be on the short-term side, you write dating apps, find a date. And on the other side, it's get married, be a working mom, be a stay-at-home mom. So my point of the guide is to really get you clear on the nitty-gritty of the kind of partner you want to call in. And if you are not sure of that partner, then you're going to just end up repeating patterns, right? This is the point of our whole conversation. So I created this guide for all the women out there who I see online who are posting their struggles about dating and who are sharing with their friends about how this guy isn't texting them back or he's ghosting them or he's dating a million other women. The point of the guide is to get you clear on what you won't tolerate and what you will put up with. And it's about finding who is compatible with you. And there we go.
I love that. I always have to write down a note so I don't forget. So the link to get the guide, you guys, it's in the show notes. It's also on the crazyexwivesclub.com under episodes. We've also got Christina's website and her social handles linked there. The note that I want us to end on is this. Nobody is perfect, you guys. Evolution takes time. And so when you're looking at that person and when you're making your list, it's so important to have clarity. And then it is so important to ask yourself, is this really a deal breaker? Does he really have to be 6'2"?
6'5" blue eyes work in finance. No.
Yes. Does he really have to wear a suit to work? Maybe not. Okay. But there are some big ones, like, does he have to respect what I'm into? Yes. Do you want support on some of the home stuff? Whatever it is. So I just want you guys to remember that part of those higher vibe emotions, when you get to the love, the abundance, the grace, extending grace to somebody, we are all on a healing journey and we are all at different places. And so there is a piece too, looking at my partnership, we don't grow and evolve at the same time, but we both continue to grow and evolve. And so how are we returning to each other? How are we returning to the commitment? How are we returning to that shared vision of what we want our future to be? You're not going to find somebody who's down the line, hits every single dot exactly as you need, because you're different than whoever they dated last time. They have to learn you. You have to learn them. And so being able to have that creative space, what are we going to create together? How will this continue to evolve together while still knowing what are your non-negotiables? Who do you want to be? How do you need to feel in a relationship? So have some fun with it. Grab the guide, play around with the app if you're there. If you are definitely stuck in the, oh my gosh, I don't even know which direction to go check out the club. I'd love to have you guys. We've got a great group of women supporting each other as we rebuild, as we find our confidence, as we figure out who the heck we are after divorce. Until next week, you guys, enjoy thinking about dating and give yourself some grace as you navigate the process. And that's it. Another great episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast for women learning how to heal from their divorce. Tune in next week for more advice and tips to help you figure out life after divorce. And until then, give yourself grace, do the best you can, and know that this is all part of the process.